God marchoba. Thank you. So, can everyone hear me? I'm a very fast talker, so you have to bear with me. So today I'm going to talk about how to go from concept to cash, or how to go from idea to cash. So regardless if you're an entrepreneur and you have an idea that you want to launch, or you work in a company and you have a project that you want to launch, you want to make sure that it becomes valuable to someone. What I'm going to talk about today is basically three things. The first one is why we validate things, and the second one is how we validate things, and the third one is two live examples from my background that I have validated in the past. So, why do we want to validate ideas? Basically, you have an idea and you want to make sure it's valuable to someone, and you don't have unlimited resources, and you don't want to waste money, and you don't want to waste time. So you basically have two resources and you don't want to waste any of them. So that's basically why we validate things before we produce them, because you don't want to end up building a product that no one uses. Then you have wasted both money and time. This is a Swedish milk. So it's 50% milk and 50% oat milk. So this was launched by the biggest producer of milk in Sweden. And then the question was, how did they validate this? How did they come up with this idea that this is gonna sell? Oh yeah, and then also we're gonna talk about Dropbox. But first we're gonna talk about the milk. So they had this milk that they want to produce, 50% oat milk and 50% normal milk from cows. And how did they validate it? Well, they looked at the studies, they looked at market studies, they did some consumer research and saw that oat milk consumption is increasing year by year. So then we should make a product that contains oat milk. That would be the logical assumption, that if people are drinking oat milk more and more, then you want to supply something to that market. But what they didn't understand is that back in the days when this was launched, the people drinking oat milk, they did it primarily for the sake of the animals. So they would never go with something that's 50-50, because they drank oat milk because they care about the animals. And the same thing for the people who stuck with milk, with natural milk from cows. They didn't want to have this alternative. So basically, there was no market for this. The product was discontinued. I mean, they of course had production facilities for it, but just a bunch of waste of money from their side. But yeah, it was still validated in this way. And then we have Dropbox, which I think everyone knows about. And back in 2005, 2008, Dropbox was revolutionary. It was so cool to have one folder to be synchronized across your devices. But they didn't build it before they validated it. And how did they validate it? Well, they actually just made a video describing, a very simple video, describing the functionality of having several different devices and synchronized files on all of them. They had a hunch that it was possible to make Dropbox, but they didn't know what the need is, like how many people are going to use it. Are we going to recoup our investment? So they relaunched this video, and they had basically sign up saying, hey, sign up for this service. And they got hundreds of thousands, if not millions of signups. And from there on, they felt that we have validated this idea enough to continue building it. So two very different products, two very different ways of validation. One was not successful, and one was successful. So how do we validate things then? Should we stick with the marketing research and the statistics, or should we go with actually testing things? And I prefer to use this model of proving interest in something. So if you have an idea, you want to release a new product or new service, you want to prove interest. And I'm saying that market studies, statistics, and just asking the person doesn't necessarily prove they're interested. So if you'd ask someone, hey, would you buy this product? That doesn't prove anything. That's a hypothetical question. They would probably lie to you. They have no incentive to tell the truth. So the first thing I say is that the most valuable thing with proving interest is money. And so is your intended customer willing to pay you money for your service or your product? upfront? Are they willing to really give in advance, or are they willing to pay for like a very small part of the product? That's the best type of intent. Then you know that people actually want this, because people are willing to spend their hard-earned money on your product. Second one is time. So if you can't get money, can you get time from your intended customer? So are they willing to spend an extensive amount of time with you, developing the product, answering questions to you? Or if they don't want to spend time, then they're probably not interested. And the third one is reputation. So are they willing to go out of their way to recommend you to someone else, to another customer, another partner, an investor? If they're not willing to recommend you to anyone, then they're probably not interested in your idea or your service. So yeah, we have these three things that I'm using to prove interest when I'm evaluating an idea. And yeah, money is the best one, then time, and then reputation. And then I will go into 2 examples that I have been using. So I have started a few companies before, some with success, some with no success. And I have tested and validated dozens of ideas. Many of you here, I think we're all like very entrepreneurial. We like to come up with ideas, but we have to validate them. I had one idea a few years ago. It was a course about men's health. So it came up because I was talking to my dad's friend who was talking about erectile dysfunction. And he was in his 60s, he was 65 or something. And he said that it's so hard to understand, to get information, and I wish I knew some things before it actually happened to me. And then I thought, okay, we have a problem here, like we have an information problem, that someone wants to have information before it actually happens. And I found some studies from a university in Gothenburg suggesting that if you have an education about men's health and about erectile dysfunction before you become to that age, then you will realize the symptoms earlier, and you will be better off, basically, because you can ask the doctor for help, you see why this is happening, you know that there are treatments. So then we have the problem, and we have a potential solution. So we have, so this study also showed that specifically if you have a course, if you have an education within this, you will have better symptoms, you will see them easier. So yeah, the problem and the solution. But did I want to go on and spend $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 with building this course? Would I want to spend like maybe half a year of producing this material together with doctors and then put it out there and hope for someone to buy it? No, I didn't. So basically, what I did is I created a simple landing page, or like a fully fledged website actually, describing the whole product, describing everything that, what was the content of the course, what the videos was about, how it was going to help them, etc. But I hadn't produced anything yet, so I just took the material from the scientific study, which was public, and then I set up like a framework for myself. And that was what I wanted to accomplish. So basically I said, I want to prove or disprove that selling a asynchronous, self-paced, video-based online course directly to consumer, because that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to sell it directly to consumer. With erectile dysfunction, men's health, is possible while having a customer acquisition cost below 60% of the course cost. So basically saying that I wanted to show that the margin was big enough to recoup the investment. And of course, that depends on the market size. It can be different for different markets. But set up a goal for yourself to see, okay, what do I want to prove or disprove? And I wanted to prove money. So I wanted to prove the interest in money, not in time, because time would be hard, reputation would be hard. I wanted to prove that they're actually willing to pay this. So what I also did on the website, I had a checkout. Put your name and email, and then you can press basically go to payment. But of course, I didn't let them pay. I just counted the amount of clicks on the payment link and see like, okay, how many people actually click this payment link. And then I ran a multiple amount of ads from different platforms to see that until the customer acquisition cost and the marketing spend stabilized, after a few weeks and a few $100s, I saw that, okay, now my ads are pretty good. I have a stable like CTR. I get people in, but I saw that the customer acquisition cost was still too high. Like after a few weeks, I saw that, okay, I mean, even if I spend this amount, I will only get this amount, this margin. So the margin was too small. The customer acquisition cost was too big. So I decided not to continue with this project. And why is that? So my hypothesis is that this solution, this proposed solution to this problem, is not in the realm of solutions. So when you think of erectile dysfunction, or when you think about men's health, first you think about going to the doctor, then you think about talking to a friend, ask ChatGPT, talk to your partner, Google. So like the idea to buy an online course about this is very, very far down. So basically, like, it wasn't in the mind of anyone, and that's why it was so expensive. But it might work as an add-on if you have, for example, like you have an existing offering as a men's physician, so you can offer this as an add-on. Then it might work because you don't have any customer acquisition cost, basically. Ethics. Is this ethical? Good question. I've been thinking a lot about that, actually. So I think before you do this type of test, you have to ask yourself, what is your intent? And is what you're doing ethical? Should you do this within, should you do a course about mental health? Should you try to advertise medication? Probably not. But yeah, you have to think about these things, like, is what I'm doing ethical? Because you want to validate some things in real life. Next, so now we're going into the ideas, the second idea that I tested, and this is my current idea, or my current company. So it was basically a tool to help supermarkets manage their social media. So there's a problem in Sweden for supermarkets that they have many employees, they have limited amount of time, and it's very the Facebook platform is quite complicated. So they wanted a system to help them manage different campaigns on Facebook. And I have this idea of some type of platform. I went back to my proof interest matrix, and I wanted to say, okay, I want to prove that they're willing to pay money, they give me time, or their reputation, and preferably money. So I went and talked to around 50 stores. I called them up. This was last year in September. I called them up, and I found 3 of them who wanted to build the product with me. They were happy to invest time. They said, yeah, you can work with us. Yeah, we're happy to give you time to help you develop the product. But they didn't want to give me money up front because there was already an alternative out there. So they didn't really want to spend any money up front. But yeah, they were willing to give me time and reputation. But of course, I wanted to come to the money part at some point, and preferably as quick as possible to prove the interest so that I can justify continuing working with this project. So what I did is I built an MVP, like a very, very, very simple product that I released to these 3 customers. And I said, yeah, now I have built a product. Now I want you to pay me for it. And they all did. They all became customers, and they complained a lot. They said it was very, very, very bad. But yeah, they had to pay, I think, $30 a month or something. But yeah, I at least had proof that they were willing to pay me money because they were paying me $30 a month, right? So then that justified me continuing with this project and with this company. And that's what I have today. So now it's a tool that helps supermarkets manage their social media. More than 120 customers, growing 20% a month. And just that's because I validated. So my biggest takeaway from this is to validate your ideas. To really think of okay, is anyone going to use this? Because there's so many startups, there's so many internal projects in companies that just fail or they are released and no one actually wants them. So they have built them, or they have wasted money and time building something that no one wants. So really validate your ideas and yeah, be thoughtful when doing so. That was all from me. If you have any questions, you can always reach me on LinkedIn or in any way. Thank you so much. Mä loban.